This episode of the LCTV News is brought to you by North Shore Community College. If you have the will to attend college, we have the way for you to earn your degree.
Good morning, I'm Danny Vittori, and welcome to LCTV News. This week, funding is a focus, playoff season began, and the governor paid a visit to Lynn. On the Lowdown, we welcome the founder and executive director of the REAL program to discuss their upcoming events and mission in Lynn. Here's the news for Friday, March 3rd, 2023. Governor Maura Healey and Lieutenant Governor Kimberly Driscoll were in Lynn on Monday to announce their new $750 million tax relief package. It could impact 700,000 Massachusetts residents and establish new tax credits, such as Healey's Child and Family Tax Credit. This would give a $600 tax credit per qualified dependent for those under 13, those with disabilities, or over 65. It would also increase the maximum tax incentives for the state Housing Development Incentive Program. It currently sits at $10 million, and under this new bill, it would be pushed to $50 million in the first year and $30 million for each additional year. This program awards market-level developers in gateway cities state tax credits. The budget is similar to one proposed by former Governor Charlie Baker in 2022, which was voted down by the legislation. However, Governor Healey is confident with her bill and believes the landscape has changed and that the package would make Massachusetts more competitive against other states when appealing to current and potential residents. Healey's administration will also be fully funding the Student Opportunity Act as part of the budget, giving the entire school system a $5 billion boost. This includes Lynn, which will receive $267 million through Chapter 7 funding. In addition, the city will receive $36 million in unrestricted general government aid. According to Governor Healey, the Student Opportunity Act calls for a historic investment in our schools, our students, our educators, and our futures. Quote, additionally, these funds will help cities and towns support their first responders, public works, youth violence prevention programs, housing production, cybersecurity, and more, end quote. The funding will also help lessen the gap and give all students access to high-quality education, according to Education Secretary and former Superintendent of Lynn Public Schools, Patrick Tutwiler. The Food Project hires a group of youth aged 14 to 17 each year for a 6.5-week paid summer internship. The application and details about the internship can be found on the Food Project website. It covers an array of topics, including growing and distributing healthy food to the community, learning the complex nature of the food system, gaining leadership skills, and learning about social injustices. The goals by the end of the experience are to gain lasting relationships with others and the land and make positive impacts on their community. It is a rolling application process for those interested. Thursday, the 23rd, there was a tribute for State Representative Pete Capano. Local and state officials gathered to celebrate Capano and all he has accomplished. He co-founded the New Lynn Coalition back in 2010, a nonprofit seeking to unite working people and help them fight the inequalities that come from the unevenly distributed wealth. Here is more from the event.
Thank you for joining us tonight and welcome to this wonderful event to recognize My name is Councilor Coco Alinso, Ward 3 City Councilor. I'm here to support Representative Pete Capano. Pete is somebody that I admired the most. He's done a lot of work in the city. As a community guy myself, it's really nice to see Pete climb up the ladder and being what he is now and still fighting for people, and it's an honor to be here.
Years ago, myself, Maria, Jeff, we founded this organization, never knowing that it would grow this big and had so much accomplishments. But along the way, there was a lot of stumbling blocks. I mean, if you're an organizer or a leader, you know you're going to expect to lose more than you win. But is that really a loss?
I'm Jenny Armini. I'm the state representative from the 8th Essex District, which includes the great city of Lynn. And that's how I got to know Pete. I'm a freshman representative. Pete is somebody I look up to. He's somebody I look to for advice to help me understand how to do the job, because Pete knows how to be the very best state representative on Beacon Hill.
I remember having tremendous success back then, working with Local 201, neighbor to neighbor, getting people out to vote, and I think that made a difference.
Me and Pete go way back, growing up in Ward 6. He was the Ward 6 councilor, and I took over for him as the Ward 6 councilor. And he's an Alley Street kid. I'm a Shepherd Street, LaGrange Street kid. So just growing up and being tied with the families and stuff, this is a tremendous night for Pete and his family being honored tonight just for the great work that he's done in the community.
If you give people some hope and you provide even a phone call back, people turn into leaders. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to change the way people think, to give people a whole new way of looking at things.
Pete is true and loyal to Lynn, not just West Lynn, Ward 6. He's true to the whole city of Lynn. And just him being our representative in the State House, we're just so happy. And tonight, that is a great opportunity to honor him.
St. Mary's Plaza, a 99-unit senior affordable housing complex, refinanced their loan through Mass Housing's Multifamily Accelerated Processing and Ginnie Mae Joint Venture Initiative. They have received $12.4 million from this loan, which will allow them to remain affordable to their residents for another 25 years. Additionally, each unit will receive a new kitchen, as well as new railings and air conditioning. The funds will also help the plaza to end their current mortgage and apply for a new one at a lower rate. The new contract totals 30 years, with 5 left on the previous one and an additional 25 on the new one. The City of Lynn is collaborating with the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, MAPC, to support the workforce in Lynn with the Workforce Development Plan. Their main goal is to conduct an analysis of the workforce and labor market to create opportunities to enter growing industries. Additionally, the plan is focused on barriers preventing residents from working, such as lack of access to transportation and English fluency. The planning process began last summer and is funded by both the MACP Technical Assistance Program and ARPA funds. The steering committee is made up of members from several organizations, local government, and schools. There was a Dominican Republic Independence Day celebration at the Senior Center on Monday the 27th. There was a live band, dancing, and traditional food for participants to enjoy. Take a look.
Yeah, so it was the Senior Center staff, myself, me, Tanya, Michelle, Mabel, Jose, and Victor. Okay. So we're doing this event in honor of Dominican Independence Day. As you know, a large number of people in this community are of Dominican descent, so they want to have a party. We have a live band, Dominican cultural dances, and Dominican food. Everyone's having a good time, and we're really excited. Yeah, so we try to celebrate and put a spotlight on all our cultures in Lynn. You know, Lynn is a very diverse city, and we try to celebrate everyone's culture and have a good time. That way we all can kind of get a taste of everyone's culture and be more, how would I put it? Be more engaged and more educated on everyone else's culture as well.
One of several COVID-era policies was to allow restaurants to have outdoor dining to help businesses stay open in the safest possible way. This state legislation is set to expire on April 1st, but Lynn will be continuing this policy with a ruling of their own. On Tuesday the 28th, the City Council voted to allow restaurants to set up outdoor dining from April to November of this year. Any business wishing to do so will apply annually for a license with the Department of Inspectional Services. Additionally, those who serve alcohol must pay an annual fee of $100 to the Liquor Licensing Commission, and businesses using the sidewalks will owe $75 to the Department of Public Works. The hope, according to Associate Planning Director Lauren Drago, is that it will increase life in downtown areas and allow local businesses to grow and flourish, as similar policies have done in other municipal areas. NAGLY of Lynn has moved to a new location at 20 Neptune Boulevard as part of the DeMacus YMCA. It is across the street from their previous meeting space, and meetings will still be held the first Thursday of each month. Those between the ages of 13 and 33 who identify as LGBTQ+ or allies are welcome to attend. NAGLY is also seeking new youth leaders to attend the meetings and spread the message of the group. The goal of the leaders is to make connections and let others know about the group and what they offer. This is a volunteer opportunity with added incentives and is open to those aged 17 to 23. Back in 2022, LCTV did a closer look at High Rock Tower Park and all the history that surrounds it. Take a look at this piece.
The thing that's really special about High Rock Tower here in Lynn is that this land is actually owned and operated by the city itself, the Community Development Office. The property we're on itself, a couple acres, was given to the city by the Hutchinson family, specifically for the creation of a observatory, a tower where the citizens of Lynn could come to observe the heavens, of course, and also to discuss the sort of most compelling and interesting ideas of the day. Sort of a strong, long history of abolitionism here in Lynn. The Hutchinson family, of course, were very vocal opponents of slavery, having been friends with Frederick Douglass. The current tower was completed, I guess, around early 1900s. The previous tower here was burned in presumed revelry after the North was victorious in the Civil War. The current observatory at the top of the tower was finished in early 2000, so around 2002, which prior to then, the tower really wasn't accessible to the public. So after that investment and renovation by the city, then the tower became open to the public so that they could come and enjoy the sky. But also the dome we're currently in, which does rotate, around so that we can track objects as they move across the sky. It also includes the telescope here, which is the Meade LX200 telescope. It's a 12-inch Schmidt-Cassegrain style telescope. With that kind of aperture, we can easily see the planets like Jupiter and Saturn and see the detail in them, like the rings of Saturn, the moons that orbit each of these bodies. You can see the great red spot of Jupiter, the northern and southern cloud bands of Jupiter as well. You can see Mars. It's a little small, but you can, if you're patient, make out some surface detail on Mars. So in the back of the mirror, the back of the sort of body of the tube is the primary mirror. And then that small disc that's cut out in the very center in the front, that's the secondary mirror. So what's happening is the light's coming in, bouncing off the back primary mirror, then it's reflecting off that smaller secondary mirror, and then being redirected back of the scope into this portion here. There's another small mirror, and then it gets bounced out through this aperture into the eyepiece, focusing it for your eyes to see whatever object you're focused on. It's about a 2400 millimeter path length, so we're really zooming in on the objects in the sky. Some recent improvements this year, we updated the lights all in the room. So these are all on a dimmer switch and have a red gel in there so that your eyes can not be photo bleached by white light. You can see where you're walking, but your eyes aren't being bleached to be able to see the things that are relatively speaking, dim in the telescope. One of the bigger projects was decommissioning the telescope, taking it off the platform here, this pier, and walking it down all 110 stairs downstairs to take it to someone to have it updated. Dr. Luke Conlon, I should say, from Salem State. He's another volunteer with us. He will take his homemade refractor style telescope, have that down on the lawn so that folks can enjoy the views down there through that telescope, see a different kind of construction, still see the night sky, still enjoy sort of the views available downstairs, but then won't have to summit the scope. Publicly held city observatory, that's rather unique. The only other one that I just found out about is in Lima, Ohio, actually. So it's really unique that the public has access to an instrument of this size. It's a 12-inch aperture telescope, which, as I mentioned earlier, allows you to really see a whole lot of stuff in the sky and allows us to do a lot of interesting things with the telescope. Other schools have them, but no cities do. So we get visitors from all over. Folks will come from California to see the observatory. We've had people from New Hampshire, Maine, Vermont driving down just by finding us online. And for those that maybe aren't interested in space, I encourage them to still give it a try because, it's really fantastic to see the rings of Saturn for yourself. I haven't even talked about the moon. The moon, of course, is very popular because there's such rich detail you can see on the moon, the lava plains, there's all kinds of scarps and fracture features, there's craters, there's mountains, there's shadow, there's light. It's really wonderful. Of course, there's the view. So if you come and it's the right time of year where we're opening right around sunset, then you can see the view of the ocean, of Boston, of Nahant, and it's really gorgeous up here.
Media is an ever-growing field full of ideas and imagination. Here at Lynn Community Television, we provide you the resources and skills to fully realize those dreams and follow your passions, as well as diving into the community of Lynn as a whole. Whether you want to promote your organization, start a talk show, learn our top-of-the-line equipment, or simply make connections, Lynn Community Television gives you the keys to explore all these possibilities. Stop by our studio at 181 Union Street in downtown Lynn to learn more.
And now, the sports update. As part of the renovation of 6 parks in Lynn, ARPA funding will be used to add a new sports complex behind Lynn Tech. It will include 2 football and soccer fields, a softball field, baseball field, renovate the existing skate park, and add a building. According to the Tech Athletic Director, it will alleviate some of the wear and tear on Manning Field, as that is currently where all their teams practice and play. KIPP Academy will also benefit, as they use Manning for their teams as well. A walking and running path will also be added around McManus Park, and all facilities will be available for public use. The project is slated to begin in the spring of this year and take around 2 years to complete. The Lynn Tech boys basketball team has turned the corner from last year, where they went 6-15, going 18-3 this year after their latest victory over Bay State, 53-46, in the first round of the state vocational tournament. They are slated to play on the road at Tyngsboro tonight, Friday the 3rd at 6:30 p.m. Their girls team lost to Greater Lowell in the tournament, but was on a 4-game win streak to end the season, including a 23-point victory over KIPP Academy in the season finale. The 33rd ranked Tigers then traveled to the 32nd ranked Hampshire Regional for an MIAA preliminary round game where they lost 45-30. After going down 20 in the first quarter, the closest Lynn Tech got was 8 points behind in the third. The KIPP Academy boys basketball team began their season at 1-4, but are now ranked 13th after winning 10 of their last 15 games. Head coach Moody Bay was named the Commonwealth Athletic Conference Coach of the Year in his first year in the role. 2 players were also named CAC All-Stars. In the first round of the Division V playoffs, the Panthers hosted 52nd ranked Rising Tide Charter, stomping them 83-45. Rising Tide was only able to score 1 point in the first, compared to 24 by the Panthers. KIPP now enters the round of 32, hosting Drury at 4:30 p.m. tonight, the 3rd. Lynn English girls basketball was ranked 39th at 11-9 and traveled to 26th ranked Durfee to play them at 6:30 p.m. The Bulldogs were defeated 65-34 and eliminated from the Division I playoff picture. Despite going 20-0 in the regular season, the Lynn Classical girls basketball team was beaten by Algonquin 58-51 in the first round of the Division I tournament. By halftime, the Rams were in a 23-15 deficit, and despite fighting back to 40-35, came up short. They end their season at 20-1. The St. Mary's girls basketball hockey team is sitting at 21-1 and is in the middle of an 8-game winning streak entering the postseason. They scored 99 goals compared to just 15 allowed to their opponents. The Spartans earned the #1 seed, had 3 players named Conference All-Stars, and beat 32nd ranked Medford 6-0 at home to advance in the playoffs. While the 15th seeded Spartans boys team also hosted the first round of the MIAA postseason against 18th ranked Central Catholic at 8 p.m. at Connery Rink. In the end, St. Mary's came out on top 2-0 in a St. Mary's goalie Anthony Palmer shutout performance as they advanced to the next round in the playoffs. Both their girls and boys basketball teams have also made it to the postseason. The boys team will be hosting East Boston tonight, the 3rd at 5 p.m., while the girls are hosting Ipswich at 6:30 p.m. The Boston Bruins remain in the top seed in the Atlantic Division and are on a season-high 8-game winning streak, beating the Vancouver Canucks 3-1, Edmonton Oilers 3-2, the Calgary Flames 4-3 in overtime, and the Buffalo Sabres 7-1. The game against the Canucks ended spectacularly. Down 2-1, Vancouver pulled their goaltender for an extra skater. Bruins goalie Linus Ullmark then scored the first goal of his career, sending the puck down the length of the ice for the empty netter. In another tight game, Pavel Zacha laid out on the ice for a goal in the second, which proved to be the difference as neither team scored in the third. Tied 3-3 against the Flames going into overtime, both teams had chances. Ullmark kept the Bruins in the game with an incredible 54 saves on 57 shots, while Boston only had 20 shots. Charlie McAvoy then scored with 4 seconds remaining to give the Bruins their 47th win. Versus the Sabres, the Bruins set a new NHL record, scoring 100 points in 61 games. The Celtics had a thrower of their own, defeating the Philadelphia 76ers 110-107 on a final 3-pointer by Jason Tatum with 2 seconds remaining. 76er Joel Embiid then hit a shot from beyond half court, but time had already expired. Boston then lost to the New York Knicks 94-109 on the road and beat the Cleveland Cavaliers 117-113 at home. Against Cleveland, Tatum was the leading scorer with 41 points. This week on the Lowdown, Jane Plourde, the founder and director of the REAL program, visited to discuss the importance of reading and their goals for the future. Here is the Lowdown. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Lynn Lowdown. I'm Danny Vittori, and today we have on very special guests, the founder and executive director of the REAL program. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm pretty excited.
And so could you just quickly introduce yourself for the viewers?
Yeah. My name is Jan Plourde, and I am the founding director of the REAL program at 17 Atlantic Street in Lynn.
And you were just telling me, too, you just hit a big milestone, 10 years.
Yes, 10 years. It's hard to believe, but we've been working at this for 10 years, and hopefully beginning to feel something of our presence. That's what we're trying to do. So.
Definitely. And do you remember what originally made you decide to found a nonprofit like this?
Well, I've been involved in education my whole life, and so when I had the opportunity, because other stuff had fallen apart, I thought, well, let's turn this around and do it something that I wanted to try. And for many years, I had the Learning Tree store in Danvers and Stoneham, and I met incredible teachers, many of whom were from Lynn. So I thought, let me try to help in Lynn for a little bit. And when I got here, I thought, ooh, I could do some work here. So I learned pretty quickly that there was 100,000 people, one public library, 18 elementary schools, and only 7 of them had libraries in their schools. And I thought, whoa, this place needs literacy. That's where it started.
And one of the things that I've seen it quite a bit around the city is the Little Free Library program that you started.
Exactly. Well, it's the Little Free Library is an organization started in Wisconsin. A fellow named Todd Bowles started it. And I had the luxury of being able to meet with him and have him come and do a conference with us with the Learning Tree store in 2014. When I was able to start the Little Free Library concept, it was really about what it is most of the places. It's take a book, leave a book. In Lynn, where we are on Atlantic Street, we're actually stocking our Little Free Library 3 or 4 times a week with books.
Wow.
Because people are just thirsty for them, and people don't understand. People want books, especially children. So that's what we're focusing on.
And you have several programs that focus on that. One of them is the Before Home program.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk about that?
Sure. That's really a cornerstone for us because we had the opportunity to get started with that when we began, and it was a really wonderful experience to be able to go and work with the children directly from the Brickett School. And the idea is that the Brickett School is truly a mirror, a smaller mirror of the entire city. We have folks from so many different backgrounds, and all of the children that we walk over from the Brickett School to Atlantic Street for our Before Home program their families come from somewhere else. And English is not their first language in every case. So what we do is we provide them in a home-like setting at 17 Atlantic Street. We provide them with the help and support that families do when families have that opportunity, and resources and time and knowledge. Yeah.
Which is it's a fantastic program, and I know it says here some of it is volunteer-based.
Almost
so
all. Yeah.
Most of it. So if people want to get involved, how would they go about doing that?
Absolutely. So reach out to me. My email's jan@therealprogram.org, or the phone number is 978-993-4425. The idea is that whatever somebody's background is, there's always a place. So if somebody would like to work with children directly and read with children, we do a lot of that. We walk over and get 20 children typically, and in that number we have usually 8 to 10 volunteers. So we have a 1-to-2 ratio, which is pretty wild because that's pretty unheard of. And almost everybody has 30 to 40 years of teaching experience, have master's degrees, have all kinds of background. So, and then we have incredibly gifted young people who are from here, from Lynn, who are work-study students from North Shore Community College. And then we also have work-study students from other area colleges as well. And then service learning students from area high schools. So it's really exciting to work in a whole intergenerational, intercultural model, you know.
People from everywhere, all places, languages,
absolutely,
ages.
Yeah, and we're all learning from each other, you know.
Because you work at North Shore Community College too, correct? You teach.
I do. I teach early childhood education at North Shore Community College on the Lynn campus Tuesday and Thursday mornings. So I actually meet a lot of the folks that are the continuum of what I'm doing. So, and I get why they may not have experience on using a library because they haven't had that opportunity. A lot of times people don't understand that when we learn to read, that takes place, before first or second grade. But when it switches from reading to learn, that doesn't take place in school. That takes place at home. So when children, a lot of times you'll hear high school and middle school teachers saying, these guys only read up to a second grade level. It's because they've never had reading after that. So they have enough reading, the mechanics of reading, to do school skills, but not the whole gamut of reading that brings you joy, that brings you a place to go when there's, when you can't go anywhere else, or even that you would prefer. And I was incredibly lucky growing up with books around me, and my mother was a very avid reader, so we had a lot of that,
I was lucky in that too. Both my parents read to me. I loved it. It's really where I learned to love it.
Yeah.
As you said, not everyone has that opportunity, so you want to give it to them.
Yeah.
And you also, in addition to that, have English classes for adults as well.
Yes.
So you have both.
We do. So it started originally for the parents, but it's not just for the parents. Any adults that can and want to come are welcome to come. We have in-person ESL classes on Mondays and Wednesdays from 3 to 4:30. And then we have a new program that's just started. It's really exciting. We're doing quilting and ESL together. A teacher from the Brickett School is teaching first grade at the Brickett School, is also trained in ESL and is a quilter. And she asked me about doing that, and I said, I just got donated 3 sewing machines. So for sure. So that's how it works. And so we have moms making some patchwork quilts and learning English at the same time. It's pretty exciting. Yeah.
That sounds like a fun time. You get to learn 2 things at once.
Well, often they are the ones that know how to sew.
That's true.
But we have one that didn't have any experience using a sewing machine yet, and this is just like, she's like a kid in a candy shop right now.
That's awesome, though.
It is. And then we have another fellow named Rob Bonney who does a virtual English class on Wednesdays, and also a very diverse group of people who are taking the classes. But there's a big influx of Ukrainians now. So, yeah.
Because you said, I think, on your email, it's 56 languages are spoken in Lynn?
Yeah, yeah.
That's a lot.
It is. It is. And I just look at little pictures of the children that you have shown here, and the idea is that if I look at that picture and there's 4 children, there's 4 different cultures. They're not even all one spoken language. Their English is their spoken language, but it's their shared language as well. Yeah.
And you mentioned some of the pictures. They came from an event you did last year, the reading crawl.
Yeah. So in our efforts to put little free libraries all around the city, I was able to find a lot of, I call them retired newspaper boxes. So the retired newspaper boxes, we have several being painted by a raw artwork team. We also have some that we're using for this event on March 19th. It's our 2nd annual Little Free Library Crawl. And the idea is that hosted at the Lynn Museum, and this year hosted at the Lynn Museum and Lynn Art Gallery, because we are also having the opportunity to use the Neil Rantoul Vault Theater in the Black Box Theater, which we've had the opportunity to be in that space for a couple of weeks now due to a water break. But we're having a scavenger hunt. The children love to see the art in those halls at the Lynn Art Gallery. And so they're going to be utilized as part of our scavenger hunt. We have other vendors, other organizations coming to be part of the day so that they'll have all kinds of things that are related and available for children and families that will be at the Lynn Museum. We have hot chocolate and cookies and book bags full of books and prizes. And we have Michelle La Poetica Richardson doing beautiful MC work that she does. I call her the narrator of the day.
That's a good name.
Yeah. And Sheila Duncan is an author from Marblehead who wrote a book called Trouble the Dog. And it's a sweet book with a plush toy that she has used and worked very closely with a lot of police departments for children having trauma. The idea is that this little plush toy is absolutely perfect for a lot of the kids going through some rough stuff. The community police are there. Lynn TV is there. We have all kinds of good things. So it's a fun day. It's March 19th, and it's 12:30 to 3:30. Yeah.
That sounds like a fun time. Definitely sign me up for that.
Yeah, we will sign you up for that.
And just before we wrap it up real quick, one of the things you mentioned was your vision. So having 6 real houses in neighborhoods.
Yeah, so what I've learned is I'm not from Lynn,
Okay.
but I have grown to love Lynn. And if I didn't love where I already am from, then I wouldn't hesitate to be here, because it has so much richness. And it really, truly does have the history of where it's been. It's got the history of where it's most recently been, and then it's going forward. It has a huge future. And I look at it as a great opportunity. But the idea is that Lynn isn't in a place to be reborn. Lynn is in a place to be born, because a place that has had its roots in industry, it's not that industry is not going to stay here, but it's not going to have the same value as it once did have, where industry sort of implies a gritty kind of city, and it's not a gritty city anymore, and it's not going to be. And so it has a lot of opportunities for the people here to be going forward with a lot of potential. So the idea of staying in the community is what we've done by having the opportunity to be on Atlantic Street. Parents don't have to have a car to get to us. It then enables parents to be involved with us. And we want parents to be involved, because all the studies show that children whose families are involved in school do much better than children whose families are not. And so we don't want to put barriers between them. So when you go to get children on a bus to go to an after-school or out-of-school time place, the parents can't go.
Right.
And so, then you have all these organizations saying parents don't get involved. We have no way to get parents involved. It's too difficult. Right. So we just try to take away those things and be part of the neighborhood that we're servicing, we hope. So
Definitely.
It's a bigger project than I thought, but we're on.
But it's an amazing project,
Thank
and
you.
so much of what you do is just great. And I agree with you that Lynn really has so much to offer.
It does.
And I want to thank you again for coming on to talk about it.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much for letting me. Absolutely.
Of course. You're very welcome. And once again, this has been the Lynn Lowdown. I'm Danny Vittori, and we'll see you next week with more guests. Now, the community calendar. There will be a meet and greet with new Fire Chief Dan Sullivan, Tuesday, March 7th at 6 p.m. Taking place at the Lynn Auditorium, come by for a meet and greet, as well as a Q&A session with Chief Sullivan. There will be a Spanish interpreter available on site, with the meeting being conducted in the auditorium at Lynn City Hall. Saturday, March 11th, Lynn Tech is hosting the North Shore Media Expo. The event begins at 11 a.m. with a panel discussion commencing at 11:30. Networking and resource tables will continue till the event ends at 2 p.m. LCTV will have a table at the event, as well as several other organizations. West Lynn Little League is hosting a fundraiser at Tony's Pub and Grill on Monday the 14th from 5 to 9 p.m. 20% of all proceeds will go towards WLLL. Additionally, there will be a 50-50 raffle and scratch ticket raffle. Come by to get food and support West Lynn Little League. To learn more about these events and all events on our community calendar, go to lyntv.org. That is all the news for this week. To learn more about what is happening in the city, visit lyntv.org. Also, follow us on social media at Lynn Community Television to watch our videos and interviews. Go to Lynn Community Television on YouTube to watch interviews, member shows, and news. I'm Danny Vittori, this is LCTV News, and we will see you next week.